I've been on the Last Closet team as a junior interviewer since its launch 8 months ago. My role is to help conduct interviews with Cyd Zeigler, who is co-founder of Outsports.com and also a member of the Last Closet team.
Yeah. Good to see you again. How you been?
Good.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
All right, so what are we going to talk about here?
It is May 29th, 2013, and this is my first interview. We're interviewing San Francisco Giants owner Larry Baer. One of the goals of the Last Closet web campaign is to understand what the sports hierarchy is thinking about in terms of anti-gay bias in professional sports.
Actually, honestly, growing up in San Francisco, I don't have a personal connection in terms of family members, but I feel like I have a personal connection because I grew up in a city that has really been sensitive to LGBT issues in the community since as long as I can remember, having being a fourth generation San Franciscan, so growing up in the 60s, shall we say, a little bit of 50s, but 60s and 70s in San Francisco, really progressive community, and I think that's, I'm grateful for the fact that I grew up in a community that has been sensitive and has been on the cutting edge and has been progressive, really from day one that I can remember in my life on these sets of issues.
Since you took ownership of the Giants, have you seen a shift in clubhouse atmosphere as it relates to anti-gay bias?
You know what, it's been now 21 years that we've been here, and I've seen a sensitivity. You don't always, in baseball, in the clubhouse, you don't always see things in an obvious way, but really when we started in 1993, we began at the very early, at the outset, we began with a program called Until There's a Cure Day, which was an annual event around AIDS awareness and what AIDS is and what AIDS isn't. And we had players wearing the red ribbon. And I have to say it was quite remarkable. Some of the leaders in that movement, Barry Bonds and Dusty Baker, the manager at the time, as we were wearing the red ribbon and as we were forming a ribbon on the field before a designated game every year, as we were filming public service announcements, and as we were embracing organizations from the LGBT community and organizations that were related to AIDS research and AIDS funding, we were able to get a really strong response from the players in a positive way. And so I have to say, really, in the 20 years, it's been pretty consistent. When we got to the It Gets Better video, tremendous participation, all the way to Jason Collins and some of our players tweeting out about in support of him.
I actually watched your It Gets Better video myself, and it was very inspirational. I really liked how your athletes promoted their different cultures and said it gets better in the different languages at the end. It was very well done.
Thank you. What I like about, what I'm very most proud of really is, look, we are a Major League Baseball team. We're not the biggest company in the world. We're not going to be able to give the most money to change the world, but what we can do is promote awareness. And the reality is, for 7 months a year, our games are on television and radio for 3 hours, at least 3 hours a day, usually longer, four or 5 hours sometimes. And we can get messages across. And I think that the players as role models for those messages and the deliverers of those messages, that's hugely important. So what I'm most proud of is that we've been sort of on the pioneering edge, if you will, of issues around AIDS, issues around bullying, issues around LGBT tolerance, openness, inclusiveness, and being the first team to do it, and then having other teams locally and throughout the country and throughout the world in sports follow us.
If you had a player in the closet on the team, what benefit do you see to the team, that person coming out publicly?
I would say that if a player is comfortable in his own skin, he's probably going to play better. He's probably going to be more relaxed as a person, a human being. In baseball, we have a saying, it's a long season, small clubhouse, right? So you have 162 games plus spring training plus, knock on wood, the playoffs. So it's a long season, and if you're, if you're in the closet, quote unquote, you're probably not as comfortable through that long season where you're trying to perform athletically at peak.
How have the Giants prepared for a player coming out?
I think that Giants or any other team, it's really, what should happen is you just create the environment that allows for people to do what what would be natural and authentic and the right thing. I can't say that we don't have a manual for that. We want to make sure that from everybody from our manager Bruce Bochy, our general manager Brian Sabian, myself, all the way up the chain, that the environment is one of inclusiveness and openness. And I'm very proud of the fact that I believe our clubhouse has been good along those lines.
Is it just because you're in San Francisco that the team has this perspective on the issues?
A reason that we may be on the forefront is that in part we're because we're in San Francisco, but I think there's a sensitivity of the people that own the team and run the team. Quite frankly, I mean, this ball club, this organization was purchased in 1993 as a consortium of active civic leaders who did not want to see the Giants move. And their activism in the community isn't just related to trying to save a baseball team. I mean, they're involved in a lot of efforts in the community, including a lot of causes that relate to LGBT and relate to civil rights, civil liberties. So I think some of it is the fact we're in San Francisco, but some of it is the fact that we're coming from a place of really community involvement with this franchise. We want to be a community leader, and being a community leader means being sensitive to all types of issues.
How's your brand been affected by all the LGBT activism that the Giants have done over the last few years?
I think that the continuity of our active involvement with the LGBT community has had a good impact and a strong impact on our brand. Not just members of the LGBT community, but the entire community sees the Giants out there as a reflection of what this community really stands for and represents. And I think that's a big deal. And I think that does affect the brand. And it's a component. It's not the only thing that people care about or feel that matters. But there are a lot of people that have pride in living in and around the San Francisco Bay Area, and the pride when they see the team reflect the values of the community. I think that makes them more willing to come to a game, watch a game, fall in love with the players, be tied to the community in a powerful, and to the team in a powerful way.
How is the rest of the country, the Midwest, the Southeast, how do they now look at the Giants because of this?
Well, I think that our brand nationally is affected by winning, but I think that people look at the Giants as an organization through the way the players communicate and the way the organization communicates as pretty progressive, and that's good. And we think that that's an important place for our brand to be. Sports, you go back to Jackie Robinson, and you see that sports can really be on the cutting edge of social change. And people look at the Giants as sort of for leadership, and we take that as an important responsibility, and I think that's good for our brand, and I think it feeds into baseball because other teams will follow along.
What do you see as an owner, your responsibility is for helping a gay player to come out?
Our responsibility is to mirror society and and even be a step ahead if we can. So I think we just have to provide an atmosphere of openness and inclusiveness.
Your neighbors down the street, a couple days before the Super Bowl, and they had a player say something pretty mean and pretty anti-gay. What would happen if a San Francisco Giant said something like that?
We have 25 players on the major league team and several hundred players in the organization, and you're not always going to be able to be sure that all the players are on the same page. They come from various backgrounds, etc. But you do the best you can, and you create a Giants way, if you will, about the values. But if it happened, I think that we would be very quick, as I believe the 49ers were, to disown those remarks as remarks that were reflective of the organization's values. And so thankfully we haven't had that.
Have you in the front office talked about punishments or what kind of reaction you would have? Have you discussed the potential for this happening and what would happen with the recourse?
I mean, I think that our assumption, and this has played out really in the 21 years that we've had players here, is that players are responsible and do the right thing and want to do the right thing and want to reflect the appropriate values. And we've seen that. and I can't say it's 100% have thought the way that reflects the organization's beliefs, but I think that they know that they're role models and people look up to them and people see them as representing not just themselves but an organization that has certain values. And thankfully we've had a very good track record with our players, not just kind of going along but taking leadership roles.
Have you set up anything formal trainings for people coming from different cultures, different places in the country, different places in the world to address these kinds of issues?
You know, we have at the minor league level, we have, it's more informal, but we have sensitivity trainings and we have manuals about the organization and what we represent. And I think a lot of it is, as opposed to a player reading through a manual, a lot of it's inculcated through the coaches at not just the major league level, the minor league level. And it's really often the coaches that are resources. And so we pick our coaches carefully and create quite a diversity among the people that are in our coaching staff.
How much does it help that you guys win? Meaning,
Help
I mean,
with what?
You have helped to do what you want to do. I mean, you've had a general manager forever. You guys are a great team, and you've got a great franchise on the field, and sports is about winning.
It's important to have credibility, and you can have credibility if you're not winning, but it's easier to have credibility if you are winning. And so I don't think it's only about winning and losing, but I think that it kind of all goes together. So if you're doing the right things on the field and you're doing the right things off the field and you're kind of able to put together 2 + 2 = 5. The reality is that there will be years when we don't win. And that doesn't mean our values change, and that doesn't mean people shouldn't still listen to us.
You have obviously demonstrated that the Giants have been a leader in promoting diversity and equality and acceptance for sports. What do you think is preventing other teams and other sports organizations from taking the same stance and doing what they can do to further acceptance?
I think things are moving. I think that's a great question. I mean, in terms of furthering acceptance, I think things are moving in the right direction, but sometimes it just takes longer than you would like. And it's similar to Jackie Robinson, quite frankly, is that when the Brooklyn Dodgers and Branch Rickey made the bold move, then others followed suit. But being the first and being the leader takes courage and takes an amount of commitment, and not worrying about what the noise in the background is. I don't think there's going to be institutional resistance. I just think it's a matter of gaining the momentum where you have some clubs in whatever sport, starting and then everybody following.